Again, I wonder why you're early.
Well, just people that are really, watching the mailing list. So, hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and my guest today is a friend. His name is Dr. Matt Lederman. And I apologize, I have the time. I messed up. It was supposed to go live at noon. I thought it was 1, but luckily I was available. And I apologize to Matt, Dr. Matt Lederman, and everyone for being either early or late, depending on what you thought. So today we're going to talk about dietary perfection. What is the downside if there is one to it? And also I'm going to share some information personally about why I'm no longer an SOS-free vegan or a strict SOS-free vegan. We'll talk about that. Let's welcome Dr. Matt Lederman back to the show. Hello, Dr. Matt Lederman.
Hey, AJ, how's it going?
I'm okay, actually. I've had some rough times, and but there is I feel like there's a light at the end of the stopping Keytruda tunnel. It seems like the farther I get away from the medicine, the more my body is healing in miraculous ways. Some things faster than others. But it's interesting because those of people that just watch me here and there, they don't really know my cancer journey because I do a very good job of writing, an honest update every week, and we don't email you every day, but every Sunday I do an update. And we had 700 people write over the last 2 weeks. And it was really helpful actually because some of the people just said like enough already. You can't please everyone. You know that, right, Dr. Matt, right? You can't,
I
right?
know. Oh, I
And
know.
so
I know.
a lot of the people were like, gosh, thanks so much for being honest and truthful. It really helps me to hear this. And other people were like, enough already. This is so depressing. So I can't both tell the truth.
Enough. What do you mean?
Well,
What enough?
because
What?
to stop talking about your cancer and your journey and all your problems. And it's like, okay, if that's what I'm saying is it's like I can't make everybody happy. So my feeling is if it's triggering for you, you don't want to hear about it, then maybe don't read it. But the point I'm trying to make is people are so kind and they write in still with suggestions. But what was really cool about this week's newsletter is I was talking about my mom and how much I miss her right now. And I wish she could be here because whenever I was a kid and I was sick, she would say, everything's going to be okay. And there's no way she could know that, but there's something about hearing that, when you're little. And it was so beautiful that like hundreds of the responses were just people emailing, everything's going to be okay. And people were just texting that. And that just, even if it's not true, that feels so much better than the opposite, which is what you often hear. And one of the people, I guess I could say, yeah, I don't know if you know Dr. Michael Roizen. He's kind of a bigwig. He's Dr. Esselstyn's boss, the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Oz's partner. I didn't even know he was on my mailing list. And he literally sends the email back, you're going to be okay. And people like Dr. Dean Ornish writing me. And it's so helpful when people do that instead of telling me what I should have done or what I should do. So it was very positive overall. But I will tell people next week's newsletter is going to be good because things are better, much better. But I was really in a dark place for a couple of weeks because the pain in my body with the 21 side effects, it was just really hard. So I'm doing really well, and I appreciate people, their kindness for the most part. It's just really, I don't think of myself as like any big deal or anything. And when people say, "Oh, you've helped me so much," I just kind of push a button and talk to people and maybe make a few recipes. So it's good. But I want to tell you that something happened last week. I'm not going to say the name of, and I know we're supposed to talk about the diet thing, but because Dr. Matt asked and some of you seem to be interested, I actually had a doctor tell me it's too late. And do you have any idea how that lands, Dr. Matt
Mm,
Lederman?
yeah.
Like especially, and here's the thing, it wasn't an oncologist. I'm really clear with oncologists, like when I meet them, because at the beginning, some of them were doom and gloom. You're going to be dead in 4 months if you don't do this, and that you're going to die this, and so I started saying to every new oncologist, of which I've seen many, radiation, surgical, and thoracic, I can't handle any bad news. Never tell me when you think I'm going to die or how I'm going to die. If there's something that's that important that I have to know, tell my husband. So all the oncologists have been really respectful. But remember, I'm seeing all these specialists and there's no way I can write it in my chart. So I didn't think I had to say this to every doctor, but I was at a doctor who I so respect and admire. And I was telling him that I need to stop Keytruda probably permanently. And I said, well, what do you think about me having the lung surgery now? And when he said it's too late, it was like the hardest
Mm.
thing I ever heard. And I cried for like probably 7 hours. And then I wrote him. And this is where I have to thank you because I tend to be kind of like shoot first and ask questions later if somebody offends me or triggers me. And I sat with it, the pain of hearing a person that I so respect think that. And I wrote him a really nice letter. I wrote it through the medical chart, and then he got back to me with an even nicer letter about. I think I showed it to you. It was like a perfect example of everything you teach about nonviolent communication, where it wasn't like you did this and this is what happened. It was like when you said that, this is how I felt, you're a very important part of my medical team. But going forward, can it not? It was amazing because the old me would have just been like, you know. So it was really cool. And then on that day, the same day, Friday of last week, when I was already devastated from this other person told me that I was going to be dead in 6 months. And it's like, first of all, I don't even think it's true. And I don't even think it's too late because what I believe is more important than what the doctors say. But can you imagine, though, with my psychology, with my sensitivity, with my anxiety, and my vulnerability to be told in the same day that it's too late and you're going to be dead in 6 months?
Mm.
And so that was really, really hard. So then when I wrote the newsletter and having all these people write just 5 words, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay, it kind of helped mitigate that.
Yeah.
So the thing is no
It was
one,
like it was like one big hug from
yeah,
all of these people. It's less about the words, it's more
yeah.
about the energy that you're feeling from all this love.
Right. And the thing is, it's like my friend John Pierre, who I used to work with, again, they just texted me 5 words, you're going to be okay. Or a poop emoji, because that's been the thing now, because we said on the last show, look, you don't have to do anything or say anything, just, send it. Because I don't know why it makes me laugh because it's a funny emoji. So anyway,
Did people sent you poop emojis? They were
and
sending
they're
you.
still sending them because it's too bad because on Zoom we have this reaction button where you can send a rocket, a heart, or a thumbs up. I would vote that Zoom make it a poop emoji, but that's just me. So anyway, so it was a really interesting weekend, but it's all the things you teach with your nonviolent communication. You do get my mom always used to say you catch more flies. I don't like this saying as a vegan, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. But I do think that there's when you're triggered and you're reactive, the initial response is sometimes to fight back, respond with anger. And I've done that. And it's never really yielded a result where I felt better or the other person felt better. But it's really hard to sit with emotions and feelings when
Right.
somebody you respect and admire so much says something that hurts you so deeply, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I did share you the doctor's
Yeah.
response, and it was more than beautiful. And so, but it's
Yeah,
just
I think that was such a beautiful connection to the person. And instead of demonizing them, you basically just said, hey, you opened your heart up, and then his heart opened up and connected with yours. And that's what happens when we're angry. We get angry because we want to guard our hearts so we don't feel pain, or we want to make them feel pain. So we lash out. That's the need for empathy. We want to make them feel the pain that we're feeling. And those are pretty tragic strategies because our real need after empathy is for them just to hear and care for us and care for the impact that they had.
it's interesting because I did add of all the 28 specialists that I have had to see since going on cancer treatment, a new person that I added to the list is in addition to my I have regular sessions with a trauma therapist, and I still talk to Dr. Doug Lyle I use people for what they're an expert at mostly, right? So she is an LCSW, licensed clinical social worker in the field of oncology, specializing in hospice and palliative care. And she's a kind person, but also a straight shooter. And one of the things she said, and it was really interesting. I've had 2 sessions with her. The first one, my husband kind of overheard, said, I think I like her, but she's helping me kind of reframe. I've always said I need a checkup from the neck up. That in my life up until Keytruda, all my problems have always been mental and dental. And the thing is people never really knew who I was, not in my heart or as a person. They knew the chef AJ persona, who was a funny comedian on the Tonight Show, did funny presentations on the cruise and heartfelt presentations in Dr. McDougall. And it wasn't that I was hiding my anxiety, but it was never relevant. If I'm showing you how to make cranberry sauce, it wasn't relevant. But now it's taken center stage because that's been the hardest part of the cancer journey and finding people they're helping me more with the mental, emotional parts, spiritual parts like you and things like that. So one of the things she was saying is because at one point, I mean, I was in so much pain. I couldn't get out of bed for 13 days, and I mean, I could barely walk. And some of my friends said, "Well, I saw you, and and you were okay." And it's like I wasn't okay, but you can't see the fact that I have diarrhea 14 times a day. You can't see you can't see or that my pancreas is going like this, and so they judge it on because I'm stoic. So if I have a job or I have an appearance, I will do it. But she was saying that there's this thing, and this called that again. This is going to sound doom and gloom, but that I could go on hospice, and that doesn't mean I'm going to die. She says it's all different now. Like hospice and palliative care now isn't mean like you're going to die. People can stay on those for years, but what they do is they give you some supportive services that you maybe can't. And I'm not going on it. I'm not making the decision. But the point is, when somebody offers me something like that, it's so much more helpful than offering me something that's really scary, like having lung surgery or chemo or radiation, which, by the way, I am looking into the surgery again. I don't know if it's too late, but the oncologists seem to think that as long as I say stage 3 with one metastases inside the lung, it's not too late and they can still go for a cure. The doctors that I talked to Friday, a primary and a pulmonologist, said, well, that's not their area of expertise, but they believe that when you do things on stage 3, the outcomes are poor. But I do have an appointment at Stanford with a thoracic oncologist. And the best part is, and I don't know why it took so long to find this because it wasn't in my medical system, but this is why when people say they hate ChatGPT, you have no idea what ChatGPT does for me, because I talked to ChatGPT about this, about my situation with having so many allergic reactions to anesthesia and almost dying. I could not get a consultation in my medical system with an anesthesiologist. They don't do it. It's never been done, just like with the radiologist. You have to actually be scheduled for the procedure, and then they'll talk to you a few minutes before. Well, Stanford has this clinic for high risk patients that have had previous bad reactions to anesthesia, and you can just go. You don't have to have the surgery scheduled. So I'm going to go, and we're going to see if some really smart people can figure out a way that I can have surgery without dying or stopping breathing again. So anyway,
Yeah. So you feel more hopeful and optimistic about that than you were because something shifted for you to want to explore surgery again. Do you want to share what that's about?
I mean, just I don't say people's names anymore. There is a prominent doctor in the world that you and I work in that had their left lower lobe removed at Stanford, not for cancer, for another reason. And the individual called me and we talked for about 45 minutes, because a lot of people like hear that, that I'm stopping. I am stopping Keytruda. It's not just I might stop. I'm hearing from people, and this is actually really helpful if you are a person that's had Keytruda that's experiencing kind of the things I am. They didn't give their phone number, but I heard today from somebody that has had a really hard time with Keytruda, because the thing is, it can take 4 to 6 months, they're saying, for it to get completely out of your system. And the thing is, until then, we don't know which side effects are permanent and which are temporary. But anyway, so this person who happens to be a doctor was telling me about their experience at Stanford with the anesthesia, and also that they had robotic surgery. See, now robotic surgery was not offered to me. And that is completely different than the kind of thoracic surgery that they do, where they're cracking your bones and ribs. The people that I know that have had that surgery have just said it was the worst. They can't be like hitting with chalk. But the people that I've talked to that have had robotic surgery are telling me it's not that bad and that they took Tylenol. So I'm not saying I'm going to have it, but I am looking into it as a
Right, right.
possibility.
Yeah. And I think that's the key is that if you're comfortable, if people pushed you to do this a year or two ago and you weren't ready, you're going to have the opposite reaction. So I think what you're doing is you're going at your pace, and you've always been like that, AJ, where it's got to work for you. You'll think outside the box, and even if it doesn't make people happy, it's got to feel comfortable to you.
Yeah, and the thing is if the whole, this is the other thing, and I don't need to add another specialist to my list, especially because these people focus on children. But I was talking to somebody, just I think it was at a meetup, and they knew my anxiety and my phobia with medical stuff. And I went down this trail and I found this particular specialty. Now they're not for adults, But they were telling me that when a child goes to the hospital, whether it's a children's hospital or an adult hospital, but usually there's different sections of hospitals if it's an adult hospital with children or the children's hospital, they have a specialty, and I believe they probably are social workers or, something like that. And they're called, I believe they're called child care life specialists. I might have the word wrong, but there are these people, because kids are really scared sometimes even to get their blood drawn. I've been in a lab where kids have, I mean, they'll scream even before the needle is put in. And there are people that work with kids. So if they have to have a test or a procedure or, or even surgery or cancer treatment. And I'm like, why is there nothing like that for adults? And they say, oh, social workers. And it's not that social workers are not nice, but I can't believe, Dr. Matt, that I am the only 65-year-old woman or person that is not 18 or under that has fear over medical stuff because of, trauma. And I don't know if we talked about it in this show, but my dad was a little bit nuts. He was kicked in the head by a horse. And as children, we were forced to have our teeth drilled for cavities without any Novocaine. And that is what kind of started the beginning of the medical trauma. And, because and that I mean, I went to a pedodontist till I was 50, and I had nitrous oxide just for a teeth cleaning till I was 60. And so that experience at the dentist up until the age of 11 kind of set the stage that pretty much all doctors, I mean, I can go to the eye doctor. Like, what do? They just look in your eye. But all doctors are really scary. And I've never had any help for that. I mean, I'm in trauma therapy now, but I try to explain that to doctors. So even though I'm a grown woman, a senior citizen, if you will, I'm like that 7-year-old I saw in the phlebotomy chair the other day that was screaming before they even touched him. And so there doesn't seem to be a place in medicine to deal with adults that have this fear. And if I was younger and could go back to school, I would be that, because I can't be the only one that's this scared.
I think most people have fear when they go in for procedures and doctors, to different levels. I would say I'm pretty low stress around hospitals and doctors. In fact, I stopped breathing and was coded in the hospital after a procedure. That's how, but for some reason it doesn't hit my system like it does other people's systems, as far as like anticipatory anxiety. But I went in to get um, just an EGD. And I remember it was no big deal, but all of a sudden you get wheeled in and your butt's hanging out of the thing, and there people are pulling you around, and it's cold, and everybody's grabbing different parts of you and taking different things, and they're talking to you, and then they're injecting stuff into your arm, and it's like cold, and it's just it's just very overwhelming. And I was thinking to myself, wow, if I'm pretty calm when it comes to hospitals and I could feel my system get worked up. If anybody has some baseline anxiety, it's really hard. So I don't think, AJ, you're in the minority at all. I think you just talk about it, whereas a lot of people just try and they'll freeze or they'll shut down or they'll suppress, and they push through it. But wouldn't it be nice if they didn't have to do that? If they could have somebody that could support them?
Well, yeah, and there's certain doctors for which it's easier to do that for. And generally you're not gonna, I mean, I'm generalizing here, that not to say that some doctors are not compassionate, but I find like in the anesthesia world and the surgery world, I think and even on oncology, I think they kind of have to have maybe a more I don't know the word I'm thinking, but my oncologist is like just a warm hug, and I think you met him. But in general, in those specialties, they've been a little bit less warm and fuzzy than say others. But of course, it's everybody's personality is
Yeah.
different. But the thing is, I mean, it's like, somebody sent me this thing, I can do hard things. Boy, I mean, it's like, but it's like, well, the thing that probably pisses me off is that why does this have to happen now at a time in my life where I want this. Nobody's life is easy. I get that. There's a lot of people that are suffering worse than me. I'm going to be having some of them on the show this month. I have a friend that's not that he's suffering. My perception is that he's suffering more, because to me, to be a quadriplegic seems harder than what I'm going through. But he is full of resilience and gratitude. His name's Peter Sobey. He's coming on the show on Thanksgiving Day to talk about giving thanks no matter what. But it's like, I it I was hoping this would be like literally the golden years, you know, and now
Mm,
it's like to have to it's incredible. So I'm hoping, you know, one of the leaders in the plant-based world, I don't know if you knew Dr. Baxter Montgomery.
mhm.
He was an amazing human and an amazing cardiologist. And I don't know if people know this, but you know, I didn't know that you know, he was sick at all. He did die. I was saddened that I couldn't go to his funeral because I was on a retreat that weekend. But before he died, he had invited me to his clinic for free to see what he could do. But he had called me up on the phone and he told me, because, you know, look, I know not everybody believes in God. There are people that are atheists that are going to be offended by this. But he called me up and he said, God is using you now to help other people. So I'm hoping that that's true because otherwise, I mean, I have to find a reason to keep doing this because that's what he said. He said, I'll have to look, when you talk, I'll look up the text and I'll
Yeah.
the exact words he said. He goes, he's doing this so that you can help other people. So if anybody can be helped by what I'm going through, and maybe, you know, that could be very comforting to me. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to know that you're helping people, you're contributing, you're impacting, and if people would be who are impacted by you and your story, it would be really meaningful for them to let you know in some way how your journey and battles have contributed to them, it sounds like. Would that be helpful to you?
yeah, I mean, I'm looking, it's so sad because he died. And so there, you know, I still have some text
Yeah.
messages, but
It's nice to find meaning in
it,
all
it's
different
suffering.
parts of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I knew I need to reread Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It was one of my favorite books growing up because I mean, he had it worse than me. Watched his whole family die in the Holocaust, and you know, his whole thing is about finding meaning in suffering. And I do need to reread that. And the last text I heard before he died was Chef AJ. I think what you're doing is powerful and courageous. Continue to reach out to God as He is always with you because He loves you. And you know, God,
Mm,
anyway,
that's so
there's
helpful.
just
So,
so many kind people in the world, and there's so many kind people, and I mean the people in the plant-based world too. I mean, you know, but there are some that aren't, and I can share those. But I don't want to do that because I only want to focus on the good. What I was saying about the palliative um, social worker or that I'm seeing, I mean, I don't need to go on hospice right now, but those kind of things are so much more comforting to know that even the pain, the terrible pain I was in for 2 weeks and I couldn't get out of bed, that what she was explaining to me is that going on hospice is doesn't mean that you're going to die soon, but that you're privy to care that you couldn't get if you weren't. So for example, they come to you. Like for example, she said, like when I had that terrible thing with the chest pain and thought I was having a heart attack and went to the emergency room, they would have come to me, you know, and to treat the costochondritis or to treat the pain. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm actually feeling a lot better this week, but it's nice to know that there's options. And the thing about palliative care, people that generally work, and I haven't met all of them, but people in palliative care and hospice, they're generally pretty kind and they will talk to you. So you can talk
yeah.
these kind of things. But
Palli- Palliative care, I was going to do a fellowship in palliative care before I got into the plant-based nutrition work. And I think it's one of the most valuable, helpful specialties in medicine. It's one of the few conventional medicine areas where I think we're really well aligned. We have medicines that can help people, and you have time to connect and talk to them, and you can really have an impact on people at some of the hardest times in their lives. So from a conventional people like in the plant-based world tend to, sometimes they'll throw out the baby with the bathwater and say that conventional medicine's terrible and there's nothing good. And I think there's some good things, but one of those good things is palliative care. So I'm glad you did that, and that's true. It's a real misunderstanding for a lot of people that you have to be about to die, and I think more people have uh, take advantage of palliative care, the better their life is, and people can be on palliative care for quite a long time and get a lot of really helpful support. So that's great, AJ, and I'm glad and if you find really nice palliative care people,
Oh my God,
You know,
he's
you
so
can really
nice.
make a difference.
He's a nice Jewish doctor with a nice Jewish name, and I can book an appointment in person or on Zoom because even with the government shutdown, they still allow Zoom. Medicare will pay for Zoom for things that are like more, like you know what I mean, mental or whatever. And I can just talk to him for an hour and it's really helpful. So like I think the person that's saying this very nice comment, love you, please do juicing and more raw, less cooked. Maybe didn't watch the last show, that I'm not asking for advice because right now with whatever, I love Dr. Brooke Goldner and I love to do a program, but I can't eat any vegetables right now. I can't eat any vegetables or any fruits except for unripe bananas, because when you have the kind of diarrhea I have, maybe TMI, 12 to 14 times a day, it makes it worse. And so when I eat raw vegetables, I have intense pain. So I cannot eat vegetables or fruits at all right now. So I'm living on starch, eat a lot of bread, eat a lot of sweet potatoes, rice, because that's kind of all I can do. So yeah. So, that's why, I mean, people are doing this to be helpful, but again, they don't have, this is the thing they don't understand. It's not possible right now. And even Dr. Goldhammer on the last show is cutting me slack because the topic for today's show was why I'm no longer an SOS free vegan. So should we jump into that? Because
Yeah, I'm curious what Alan said. That's
well, he
interesting.
said in your like, first of all, I'm still a vegan. I'm never not going to be a vegan, I don't think, because I won't even take the pig enzymes to help my condition, which is exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. So I've been vegan for over 48 years. So that's not going away. I did it for ethical reasons and I stayed for ethical reasons. I didn't even know until maybe 35 years of being veganism that it had any impact on your health. And it took even longer to find out that it helped the environment. So you don't have to worry about that. When I say I'm no longer SOS free, I am still a vegan. And I anticipate I will always, will be, even though some people are saying that will help or cure my cancer eating animal products. But I can't take the pressure of having to live to this dietary standard that I'm not sure I 100% even believe in for everyone. Because people, even as much as yesterday on the show, people are engaging with me as if I'm still eating this Goldhammer perfect diet that I did eat for many years because it was very helpful in my weight loss journey and helping with food addictions. And I've always said to people, do the least restrictive program that you can do that will get you the results you seek. And Dr. Matt, you've worked in the McDougall program. As in person, you've seen people do a imperfect vegan diet, including salt, including sugar, including flour, maybe not the oil, and still recover from tremendous diseases, haven't you?
Yeah, there was even oil and I remember asking John McDougall, I said, hey, your rice milk has oil in it. He says, oh, it's a little bit. It's not going to hurt you. Because the rice milk, the rice stream, it had a little, I think, sunflower stuff. And the point is that a lot of people can't do even, they shoot back over and then they allow oil in and then all of a sudden animal products are back in, which is very different than having a little bit of oil or salt once in a while. People have a little bit of salt and then it's more salt and more. I think a lot of times the rules are created because most people can't do. In fact, you heard John say that people can't do moderation.
And that's
He talked about his grandmother. Remember her? She would cut a burger into quarters and eat like two of them from McDonald's and leave the other two. My grandmother could, I think it was his grand or great grandmother. I can't remember. Do you ever hear him tell that story?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, yes. I think it was his grandmother who lived, I think, to 105.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said everything she did was moderation. And he would say, I'm a passionate person. I can't do moderation. And he said most people can't do moderation. So I have to tell them to be very strict.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for people to know themselves. The thing is, I mean, I don't even know if I ever was. It's funny because today we talked about what the SOS free diet is with Dr. Goldhammer, and he was explaining it from his perspective because there's things people will tell me all the time, they do the SOS diet, which right away is like there is no SOS. Well, I guess the standard American diet is SOS, but it's if you do it, it's actually the SOS free diet. And so many people that I've met that claim to be perfectly SOS free are having things that, at least where I learned it, which was at True North from Dr. Goldhammer, are not on the SOS free diet. For example, chocolate, for
Sure.
example, date syrup and date sugar, bread, gluten, nutritional yeast, these kind of things that he's never, alcohol, coffee. So when the diet that I learned from him as a patient in True North is much different than the diet that I see people that are saying they're SOS free eat. that because none of those 7 or 8 things were ever on the program. Even miso, by the way. So that's why I think it's a little bit confusing because when you tell me you're an SOS-free vegan, I don't know what that means exactly. Are you just avoiding oil, sugar, and salt? And how do you define sugar, oil, and salt? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And people, I think, don't under those things that you talk about. There's more like that where people just don't understand that they're getting salt, oil, and sugar. Just don't even realize it.
So, for me, I mean, if we look at Dr. Goldhammer as the gold standard, which I'm not saying he is, but some people do, because people used to call me Goldhammer Light and things like that. Let's look at the motivation for why I did that diet in the first place. Because a lot of people are just finding me, they don't know my whole story. They didn't read any of my books where I tell my life story, like The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. I came to Dr. Goldhammer as a patient in January of 2012, mainly to get off psych drugs because I was on them and I couldn't get off them and they made me feel terrible and like just and so that's why when people see now they always now, especially with doctors actually seeing the anxiety I have over cancer, they're like, oh, you need to go on this medicine. And it's like, no, I was on it, and all it does is just made me like, I didn't have panic attacks, but I had no joy. I couldn't feel any emotions. So it was really hard to get off these drugs. I thank God for Dr. Lyle. We worked, it took about 9 months. But when I went to the True North Health Center, you always have a phone call with Dr. Goldhammer before to make sure you're right. And he goes, oh, yeah, we'll write you a disability letter. You'll be here for 6 weeks. We'll water fast you. We'll get on the drugs. Well, I get there, and my doctor at the time, who's still my doctor today, who I think is one of the best humans in the world, Dr. Peter Sultana. He's been my doctor for 15 years. He said, you can't fast people on psych drugs. So I did a juice fast. While I was there, Dr. Goldhammer has always been such a kind person to me and mentor. And somehow he was talking to me. I was 65 pounds heavier when I went there, but I wasn't there for weight loss or food addiction. I barely even knew about it. And he put this idea in my head that I could actually lose weight because I had tried many times. I had tried fen-phen and I had tried anorexia in my teens, and all these things worked, but only to gain the weight back. And he kind of did that thing, like if you remember, I think is it the book by Mark Twain? Is it Tom Sawyer or Huckle? There's a scene in the book where he's being punished. He has to like paint a fence, and he gets everybody else to whitewash the fence for him by making it sound like it's going to be really fun to whitewash the fence. Do you know what I'm talking about in literature?
I don't remember that. And I don't know that.
Okay, well, the idea is you got something you don't want to do, so you make it seem like fun and have somebody else do it for you. It was kind of that sentiment.
Mhm.
And he kind of said something to me, like he never called me fat or, say that he put this idea in my head. He said, you're obviously, he said, what do we think of as a great chef? He goes, a great chef is somebody that really knows how to concentrate sugar, oil, and salt. He goes, I think you're probably already a great chef. But imagine if you actually, like had lost some weight and could show people how to do this, without that, imagine then. Like, and he said it in like not a mean way. And he kind of like made me think like, okay, well, how do I do this? And so I did it by following, I read The Pleasure Trap. I actually ended up becoming the voice actor. I mean, it's amazing how the people you meet can lead to wonderful opportunities. I became the voice actor for the book, The Pleasure Trap. And I did his diet. And I did it. I started it. I remember the day that I got, let's see. No, actually, it took me a year because it seemed too hard. You know what? I already, it just seemed too hard. And gosh, this is funny. It's taking a walk down memory lane. This was January of 2012. November of 2011, it was the day after Thanksgiving. I was with Dr. Doug Lyle in person. And I still hadn't lost any weight because I wasn't, I mean, this diet sounded like who's going to eat a diet without, I was already sugar free, by the way. I had been since the year 2003. And I think it was oil free. I think it was the caloric density of my diet that was making me keep weight. But I remember saying to Dr. Lyle, I'm doing everything you say and I'm still so fat. We hear that a lot. And that's kind of when I got into the mindset and the conversation to do it the way that Dr. Goldhammer prescribes. And I will say that the whole food plant-based or vegan SOS-free diet is unparalleled, I've seen, for weight loss if you haven't set the bar so high that you will get into the ego trap and kick the table over and not do it. The people that can do it should do it. I'm not saying it's a bad diet, But the thing is not everybody can do it. I have the psychology that I was able to do it for a really long time. And truth be told, I can do it right now. I just don't want to. I'll explain my reasons. I don't have a problem doing it. Either does my husband, but we are being more flexible for reasons I will soon understand. But what I noticed, Dr. Matt, is that when I was running the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which was from 2008 to 2018, it was an in-person program in my home in Sherman Oaks, and then it became an online program till about 2019. I would see failure after failure. And by that, what I mean is people that were doing the diet, doing perfectly, and then one slip and they were done, and they would gain hundreds of pounds back. And then I talked to Dr. Lyle about this, and he's been on the show talking about this thing called the ego trap, where for some people, this is why you have to know your psychology. And most of us don't have the psychology of Dr. Goldhammer, where we're emotionally stable, not seeking any novelty, things like that. That people could do a pretty, a great job and be perfect for a while, and then one little slip, and then they would kick over the table and then not try at all. And that's why, for some people, and this is why I wanted you to talk about the downside of dietary perfection. If you can do it and do it for the rest of your life, I'm not telling you not to do it. It's a great diet. Dr. Goldhammer's been doing it from the age of 16 to the age of 66. But for some people, it's too strict. So maybe talk about that, and then I'll talk about why
Yeah.
I decided not to stay on that plan.
Yeah, I think this is really important. A lot of people are trying to figure out what is the right diet and then force themselves to do that. And what I think is more important is what is the diet that you can do for the rest of your life? And if some people can do SOS completely free, some people can do SOS free from when it, when possible, but sometimes they include a little bit of salt or sugar or even oil when they're, for example, if they go out to eat and they don't want to eat before they go, or they don't want to order something steamed, or they can't get the chef to do what they want. So it's knowing what you want to do, what you think you can do, stick with that. And then over time, your taste buds do change and you can push yourself a little bit more if you want to. What I think is really harmful and people don't talk about enough is that if they're white knuckling it, if they are so unhappy, this actually happens to me, not with food. This happens to me with exercise. I was just talking to Alona about this morning, and because I was going to the gym, and I would lift in the gym, and I would do something on the treadmill, and I go 3 times a week, and I don't really, I was doing the same thing for week after week after week, and I didn't enjoy it. And I was like, oh, I got to go to the gym again. I don't feel like it, and I would push myself because I have a lot of willpower. But today, actually, she said, "Hey, do you want to go for a walk instead?" And we did like an 8-mile walk all around Princeton. It was beautiful. If I keep pushing myself to just go to the gym, I could do that for a while. But two things will happen. Either I have the personality where I can continue to suppress the needs that aren't being met by going to the gym. And that, I think, has a harm that people don't talk about. Or eventually I could be the type of person that just gives up, like you said, kicks the table over and doesn't exercise at all. I'm more the person that will suppress my needs, and there's an underlying, with that suppression, there's an underlying mobilization of my nervous system that's unhealthy, that's pro-inflammatory, and there is a frustration and irritability and almost like a little bit of misery as that builds. And what's more important is for people to find out what they can do. And when their body is telling them, hey, I'm not really enjoying this. I'm eating steamed kale 3 times a day and I don't like it. But I think I should because AJ or Dr. Goldhammer or whoever told me I should. That is not sustainable. And that's why people do these yo-yos where they can do that for a while and then they fall off the wagon and they come back. It's so much more important to have the kale with some peanut sauce that, oh my God, it has a little bit of soy sauce in there, which is added sodium, let's say. And you don't have to do that. I'm not saying there's recipes that you can eat peanut sauce without it, but I'm just trying to give an example here. Let's assume that's how you had to do it. That is so much healthier than forcing yourself to eat steamed kale and be miserable, in my opinion. Now, unless you have a medical condition where you cannot eat something, which is a different story. And I think we John McDougall is a mentor for both of us, and
Yes.
he used to tell me I would say, why, what about this diet, that's just vegetables and fruits. He goes, your cholesterol numbers will look better if you just ate fruits and vegetables, and ate tons and tons. He goes, your numbers will look better. He said, but most people can't stick with that long term. If you can and you're happy, fantastic. He picked the diet where people would reverse disease. And he said, I'm not trying to make it any harder than it has to be for the average person. And then some people, he would have them be gluten free, but not everybody has to be gluten free. So he would say, hey, if you have to be, I'll do that. But in general, don't do what you don't have to do. It's hard enough. We're asking a lot of people just to be plant based and to remove oil, salt, and sugar wherever possible. At the same time, don't throw it in just because you think it's healthy or it doesn't matter. There's nothing healthy. I think you would agree with this, AJ. There is nothing health promoting about added salt, added sugar, or added oil.
I
There's nothing
agree.
healthy about that.
I've never said those were healthy, and that there are people, at least in the plant-based world, that are now really embrace. I don't need to say their doctors' names, but there's some doctors in the plant-based world that are really embracing them. And one of the viewers is saying extra virgin olive oil is fine. When you have people aren't doctors. They don't understand that when you have pancreatitis and exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, no oil is fine. Even nuts and seeds will kill me now. They won't kill
Right.
me. So
But the question is that food health promoting? There is nothing health promoting about eating an added oil, an added sodium, or added sugar. I don't care if it's extra virgin.
I
I don't have to
agree.
get into that fight about that. But if you're eating a little bit because that makes your life more wonderful in some way, a little bit is not going to cause, for the average person, is not going to cause the chronic diseases that we're trying to deal with. We're trying to deal with diabetes, we're trying to deal with obesity, and people eating a little bit of added oil. In fact, people are more likely, John would say this too. He would say people are more likely to eat the food that I'm telling them if they added a little bit of salt to it. He doesn't say you have to, but his biggest goal was to get you to eat those health promoting foods that so many people have a hard time eating. That's the goal. How do I get you to eat as much, make as many of your calories as possible come from fruits, vegetables, whole grain, starchy vegetables, and legumes? If I can get as many of your calories per day from those food groups, I'm doing something right. And if adding a little bit of sodium makes you do that twice as much, then a little bit of sodium is healthy for you.
Absolutely. And again, it comes down to the people knowing themselves. I mean,
Yes.
this is where and the thing is other than, I think Dr. Goldhammer and maybe Dr. Furman, and of course now I've known people like Dr. Esser and Dr. Sabatino that talk about food addiction. I was talking about it, before I was even YouTubing to people like that I was working with privately. But you have to know yourself, because I know people for whom, some of these things are a very slippery slope, but not for
Yes.
everybody. And the thing is, one of the what Dr. Lyle says a lot of brilliant things, but one of the things that I always remember is like we cannot paint everyone with the same brush, you know? And so my husband and Dr. Lyle, who are both skinny guys, they can have sugar. Not, I don't know how much they do, but the point is if they have a restaurant meal, they they can go back to eating healthy the next day. But some people, like that saying, one drink, one drunk. And the thing is, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but I got to tell you, some of the idols, I have seen them eat stuff that is not on the plan that they say. I have seen them at fancy restaurants eating oil, sugar, and salt. I have seen them at retreats. And the point is I don't think anybody, no matter who this person is perfect all the time. And I just want people to know I am vegan. I am not SOS free. That doesn't mean that I eat egregious amounts of any of it. But I was telling Dr. Goldhammer, he says, well, where are you imperfect? So I went on this mental health retreat, Grief to Grace, and I did bring all my own food. And that's kind of difficult when you don't have a car and I'm in Phoenix and I can't get to the store. It was a week long. In the last couple of days, I mean, I ran out of vegetables. And so I ate some vegetables that had oil on them. They were steamed with oil, not much. And he said, well, that probably you shouldn't do with your condition. But the thing is the goal of doctors now are to get enough calories in meat to, to stay over 100 pounds. And the thing is this is why when people say I'm SOS free and I can't lose weight, there is no way you can gain weight on a low calorie
Right.
density, meaning without nuts and seeds and oil, low fat, SOS free diet. There is no way I could eat enough food on that diet to maintain my weight, let alone gain it. And those of you that have followed my story from the beginning, when I had pancreatitis and couldn't eat anything or drink anything for days, and my first solid food was cream of rice, like that was disgusting. The only way I could even eat it is to put salt on it, you know?
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. Like the most important thing you said, AJ, is you have to know yourself. If a little bit of salt is going to throw, or a little bit of oil is going to throw you over, then you know that that's a no-go. But if you're not going to eat this food unless you have a little bit of salt, then that's more important to me than just stopping eating this food. And that is know yourself and don't kid yourself. And there's a lot of people, I Alona and I deal with this all the time. People will tell us they're eating this perfect SOS free diet and the weight won't come off. And you and I know, and everybody knows who's been doing this for a while, if you're eating the food that we are talking about, you cannot, you cannot be, significantly overweight.
I think it'd be very, very difficult. And the thing is I've heard people say that to me my whole life. And then for some reason, when they go to True North and eat that food, they all seem to lose weight. So it's real interesting. And I'm trying to think back to when I first became truly like perfectly SOS free, which was I kind of started it in about 2008, but I was still eating bread and nut butters. And then I went to True North 2011. I think I was trying to be perfect, and I really committed to it. And I remember January 2nd, 2012, and I was as perfect as you could be, but if you travel, and I was working as a professional speaker, it was really hard. It's not so hard necessarily always with the oil. I wasn't ever making really exceptions with the oil, and sugar you can generally avoid. But like you say, even places that'll sometimes do oil free, the salt is always seems to be the hardest,
Mhm.
when I would do the cruise or things like that. And so I felt like, God, I can't say I'm SOS free. I had this, this or that. But now at this age and stage and condition of my life, I don't drink a lot of plant milk, but maybe I'm making a soup and it calls for a cup. Well, I really don't feel like making it because it's going to go to waste and nobody's going to drink it. So I'd rather have the box in my refrigerator that's oil-free, sugar-free, that has like, I don't know, what is that, 40 milligrams of sodium. It's a convenience thing for me because I feel like what's that saying? How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Why do I need, who am I being perfect for? Like
Exactly.
why I don't need
Exactly.
to be a role model of SOS free perfection. And I haven't been for 2 years. And I want people to know because, like, what are you eating? I'm not doing, first of all, any recipe I create is going to be SOS free, vegan, gluten free. Even before I had to be gluten free by necessity, like 15 years ago, I always wanted my recipes to be inclusive. So I always made them gluten free anyway, for example. And I'm not writing recipes with sugar, oil, and salt. I never learned to use oil in cooking, so there's no reason to do that. But I bought a condiment the other day that, it had, I think there was like a tiny, tiny bit of something oil. Like it was like the last ingredient. It was still really low fat. And I bought it and I ate it and I liked it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
things like that. It's mostly in the condiment world. And of course, there's Dylan with wonderful SOS free condiments, which you can buy. And I encourage you to do, but I'm too cheap. I am way too cheap. I'm gonna buy the dill mustard that I love at Trader Joe's that has some salt in it because these are condiments and I know how to condiment responsibly. I'm not mainlining mustard or almond milk or barbecue sauce. And
Yeah.
and by the way, with Date Lady, oh my God, she's got the best barbecue sauce. It's no sugar because I don't seek to use sugar, but it has some salt. And for me, it's not a trigger. And if it is a trigger, it's a good trigger. Because guess what, guys? Salt is a powerful appetite stimulant. And that's what I need right now. So I don't add salt to my recipes or my food, but it's good for me when it has it because if
Yeah.
it's going to get me to eat more.
And if people are so worried about doing the right thing, what am I supposed to do? They sometimes, when they cheat, they don't connect to how they feel. I noticed if we go out with friends to a restaurant, we'll usually eat before we go, so we're not that hungry. But then we go and we'll eat something. It could be maybe it's a vegan pizza or it's, some other vegan dish. And when you're done, you can feel the salt in your mouth and you can feel your body, your stomach, it just feels heavy and your body and it just doesn't feel that good. So you can connect to the fact that, hey, I don't want to eat this way all the time. But if you're so busy thinking about what's right and you let that deprivation build up, it's like a slingshot. And then you get into that restaurant and you fly off the handle. It is really challenging for people to even connect to the fact that their body is is rejecting that food. So I think there's something about connecting to yourself. And then like you said, I was on a cruise once and I didn't want to eat steamed vegetables all week. But what I did do is I didn't feel good, even that they would cook vegan for me. Like you said, the salt is on, they would do no oil, but the salt was really hard to get rid of if they made it not steamed. So what I would do is I would have the dish that they made vegan and oil free, and I would put it on some steamed vegetables or some steamed rice. So it cut the salt a little bit, but I could have eaten the steamed stuff. Like you said, I didn't want to. And I think that's why you wanted to have this show, AJ, was why do we have to pretend that we're doing this 100% when there's so many people that then don't do it 100% and
Right.
they feel bad about
And I
themselves.
don't want to be that standard. I don't want to be the
Yeah.
poster child because I'm not doing it. I've never, I mean, in the last 2 years, I'm not doing it 100% at all. And I apologize to people that if that made you think you had to be perfect too. I was doing it because for me, it was unparalleled for weight loss and it took away all the cravings. But for some reason, and this is kind of important, Dr. Matt, what I learned is, because I kind of broke my sobriety or streak because I really didn't have any sugar from July 6, 2003. And I'll explain where I'm having sugar now when I have it, which is very small. I always thought, and Dr. Lyle tried to explain this to me, but until I lived it, I never understood it. He said, I always say, well, I'm a sugar addict. I'm a sugar addict. I wasn't a sugar addict because I never ate a Twizzler or a gummy bear or a sweet tart. I was a fat addict, and so the sugar was always with fat. You know what I mean? Candies, certain candies, cakes, cookies,
Mhm.
pies, and ice cream. I don't. I mean, I was a thing in that they had like peppermint candy, and I had one, and it was like, okay, this is good. Like it wasn't like, oh my God. Sugar without fat does nothing. I mean, I like it, I suppose, but it doesn't do anything for me, right?
Right.
And so where I'm having sugar now, which again, I don't add it to my recipes, I don't have it in the house, but to give you an example, sushi, vegan sushi is my favorite food in the world. And I'll have it up to one time a week because I'm on a trivia team where they have sushi. And there's some ginger, right? And there's probably a little sugar in the rice. And I can eat that. And it's not a big deal to me. It might be
Yeah.
a big deal to others because I'm breaking my abstinence with sugar. So the other place that I've had some sugar is when I go to Stanford, I get an acai bowl at this. Oh my God, Palmetto Superfoods is supposed to open here. It's like the best acai bowl. You can have 20 unlimited toppings. And when you have no appetite and are sick most of the time, when you find something you like to eat, you want to eat that. And so, yeah, I could bring my own homemade granola, but they put like a small layer and it probably has maple syrup. Again, but it's sugar without fat. It's not a problem. And the third time that I eat sugar, and it's not that much, but it's around the holidays, is I love peppermint candies, peppermint candy canes. I don't eat them by themselves, but I like them crushed up in things, in desserts, or on this. We have this vegan ice cream called Freeze at Press Juicery. Amazing. So I'll do that. And it's like, it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't make me feel bad. I could take it or leave it. But I want people to know, please, I'm not, because even Kathy Hester was on my community last week. Well, your diet. There is no diet. I am vegan. That's all I am. I'm imperfect. I'm gluten free by necessity, but there is no Chef AJ diet anymore. Okay. So let me off the hook. I'm not perfect. I eat sugar, oil, and salt, not in great quantities, not all the time. And again, mostly it's for convenience and because I actually need to have an appetite and gain weight. And I can't do that, especially when I can't eat any fruits and vegetables right now. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you're in confession here.
No,
And we're
I
just,
want people, I mean, the people that are around me know, and I still have friends in my community, like, I can't believe you're eating that. And it's like, okay,
yeah.
really? Like, that's the other thing. And maybe we can discuss this. Is the SOS free vegan diet the be all and end all? Is it the most perfect diet for health and longevity? Because I know people that say they follow an SOS free diet and still use tamari and still use coconut aminos and still use miso. Dr. Goldhammer would say that's not SOS free, right? Or, or things like, I wonder, if things like, when I think about it, because I used to be like, you can, date syrup, I don't think there's much difference to your body in terms of
Yeah.
sugar. I mean, if you're going to
Yeah.
include it. And believe me, I love date syrup because I love the taste. I feel like it just, that's what I'm used to. I feel like when I've tasted maple syrup recently, it's sickly sweet. Agave is sickly sweet. But in your body, does your body really know the difference?
Yeah. It's still an added, date syrup is still an added sweetener. So we just group added sweeteners together, and people say, oh, well, there's some nutrients, there's some, things in the date syrup that's not in other things. It's so minimal compared to when you eat a whole food that you're taking an extracted sweetener. And yeah, I think you're kidding yourself there if people are thinking they're eating a whole food when they're using date syrup, which is actually harmful because then they could be pouring it all over the place. It's like the Pam spray, and they think that that's fat free and they're spraying it all over the pan. And they think they're not using any oil because it's fat free, oil spray. And it's not the case. So I wish people could let themselves, because the criticisms that come towards you, AJ, are 10 times as loud in their head towards themselves. So everything that you hear from somebody, they're yelling at themselves internally even louder. And if anything, if you could just have compassion for the voices in people's heads when they criticize you, they're trying to get acceptance, self-acceptance, and it's really a tragic strategy. If people could just be a little more compassionate to themselves, if people could check in what works for them, what are they realistically going to do, and know that what's more important than being 100% perfect is making as many of your calories come from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, starchy vegetables, and legumes. Do that, whatever it takes to make. And sometimes when you go out to eat, you're not going to be perfect, but going out to eat gives you a quality of life that makes you happy, that allows you to continue having energy, living and doing all these wonderful, healthy things. So I used to think that alcohol was unhealthy, and there's nothing health promoting about alcohol. But when people all get together and laugh over a glass of wine, and that for whatever reason gets them all together, that's a healthy experience, even if they're having a little bit of wine. So people are going to now hear me and say that wine is okay. There's nothing health promoting about alcohol. But do you see what I'm talking about? There's a bigger picture than just the food or the drink that crosses your lips.
That's what I love about you. And I really wish we could get Dr. Stephen Cole on the show because the doctor that was on yesterday talked about the CTRA.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
doctor I had just met that happens to be a plant-based doctor that lives in Sacramento, new to me, wrote a book called Fearless Wellness. Apologize for his sound yesterday. We'll have him back. But I wish we could talk more about this because, I made a decision to not be perfect. Well, when I was diagnosed with cancer, which was, well, depending 3 times, depending on where you look, but let's just say April of 2023 because I had known about it 6 months sooner and I tried everything, fasting and all this kind of thing, and part of me was it was sort of like, if being perfect all these years didn't prevent cancer,
Mm.
how is doing it now going to make a difference? And people still believe that I love Dr. Brooke Goldner, don't get me wrong, but if I would just do that program or do this program. And the thing is I never believed that it was my diet that caused the cancer in the first place. So
Right.
how is making an already overly strict diet even stricter? I
Right.
felt like loosening the reins would make my mental health better. And again, it's not even that I go out and do these things, but it's the freedom of not having the restriction, right? And so
Yeah.
here's the thing. So there was people would ask me for years because I'd been on food addiction summits and like, is there anything you miss? And I tried to think for years because almost anything that I missed from, and by the way, I ate enough sugar the first 43 years of my life that I don't need anymore. I've had every kind of candy cake, cookie pie, and ice cream that was vegan, and even before I was vegan. But I would say it's the one thing I would say was, yeah, I miss black licorice, and I couldn't find any black licorice without sugar, and most of it has gluten, which I know I can't eat. And so there was one day, and I was having a pity party, and I'm like, I'm going to eat some black licorice. I found a gluten-free bag, and it was like 500 calories. And the thing is, like the first couple of chews were good. It made me so sick, like so sick. And it was like, well, that's not a good idea. I don't think I'm going to do that again. But what it did force me to do is create an SOS-free vegan version of black licorice, which is actually, so much better. But I feel like not having the restriction it doesn't make me go off the rails, right? Knowing that I'm not
Right.
this anymore. I'm just vegan. And even then, okay, vegan Linda Middlesworth, the vegan police, I accidentally ate something that wasn't vegan in this journey because I'm eating bread now, and I didn't realize. And thank God for bread. We'll talk about bread in a minute. I didn't know. Now I know that gluten-free bread doesn't always mean it's vegan, and that they sometimes put egg whites in. It was the last
Right.
ingredient. So vegan gods, please forgive me, right? So, and that's the thing, is because we have all these wonderful plant-based doctors, and I don't need to name them, you know them. And for the most part, they agree. But then in the 5% where they argue, this is where people even fight, like, well, you're not doing, the date, whatever, 21 tweaks daily dozen G bombs or whatever. I mean, where is the proof that this version of a vegan diet is better? Because like I said, you and I teach in the McDougall program. I do the cooking segment. You are doctors sometimes for the online and the in person. We've seen miracles happen, hundreds of pounds of weight loss, and people getting off all their medicine and still having some sugar and salt
Yeah.
and bread.
And I've seen people
So
be perfect and they can't reverse their disease. So it's this idea that I don't know. I wish people could just do this is how I think you do it too, AJ. It's a continuum. I'll say to myself, I could have this banana ice cream, or I could get vegan ice cream, or I could get animal, dairy based ice cream. And I'll say, hey, I think this banana ice cream is going to really hit the spot. And I eat that. I'm like, that was fantastic. Once in a while, I might be like, you know what? I really want this, a little richer. So instead of just having the banana ice cream, I'll put, these date nut balls and all sorts of stuff in there. And it's almost like a Ben and Jerry. So I make it a little richer, but it's still whole food, and actually it's SOS free. But then once in a while, I'll be like, you know what? I really want there's this Ben and Jerry's flavor, the vegan Ben and Jerry's flavor, Netflix chilled or something. I can't remember what it is. Fantastic. Boy, do you feel like junk after you eat that though, because it's super ton of oil. But if I have a little bit of that, I'm like, oh, okay, once in a while I could have that. It's not the end of the world for someone that doesn't have a health issue where they have to be more strict. But it's not to me. And then it's like, well, when will I eat the animal-based ice cream? I don't ever want that. But 99 times out of 100, AJ, we're good with the whole food plant-based. You don't need to go all the way to the vegan. You don't need to all the way go to do you eat up the continuum too? Where, hey, you know what? If you could eat it without added salt, you will.
yeah,
But
I don't.
sometimes
Yes,
you need
I
to add
don't.
some salt.
That's the thing. I don't ever. Except for the pancreatitis when I was eating cream of rice, I don't add salt to my food. I'm fine eating the bland. I mean, I haven't changed my lunch in 12 years, Hannah yams and a pound of broccoli, other than I can't eat the broccoli now. But I agree with you that, the few times that I have tried the food, it's been very disappointing. Not just the black licorice. When I was at Disneyland, all my friends were getting Dole Whip, and I had never had it because I was so perfect for so long. And the first couple bites were good, but it was like
Yeah,
chemically. It had,
yeah.
or I didn't like it, and
That
maybe
chemical,
because
that chemical thing is, I think that chemical taste is hard to explain, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm a chef and I was a pastry chef, I can make food in general, with
Right.
one exception, and he's probably not watching, but maybe his daughter is because she follows me, except for Auburn Bodega. I am not bragging, but my food tastes better to me than pretty much any restaurant I go to. So there's not a lot of room for deviation, but taking that label off has just helped me. And I've been, it's just kind of like I hid my can't hid. I didn't share my cancer diagnosis for 2 years, and I didn't share this because I didn't think it was relevant. But people keep coming to me like I'm this SOS free police, and oh, I'm so sorry, there's salt in this. Or I don't. I never cared anyway. And again, if whatever you're doing is working for you in terms of
Right.
your health, your dealing or managing food addictions or your weight, keep doing it. I'm not telling you to eat sugar, oil, salt, or bread. I'm just telling you I am imperfect as a human, as a vegan. I am still vegan and gluten free, vegan by ethical choice and gluten free by necessity. But you will see me if you see me in public eat these things. I don't seek them, but they are there and I'm okay with it. And I don't believe that this is the reason that my cancer has progressed a bit, because it did, but it seems to be a slowing down. And I do want to say this, Dr. Matt, because I forgot. If you just joined us, we were talking about before we'll go back to dietary perfection, but on Friday, the experience of having two people that I had known for years and admired, one tell me that it's too late and one tell me that I only have 6 months to live, as devastating as it was, and as I mourned this the whole weekend, it's kind of made me want to rise up in just like live and show them that they're wrong. Like it kind of, at first it hurt deeply. It was like, especially because the people that wasn't like a random stranger. It felt like a knife through the heart, but it's kind of made me like, I kept hearing that song, "This is my fight song." It's like,
Mm.
oh, you are wrong, and like it got me after getting sad and depressed, it got me really mad. No one should ever say that because guess what? No, I mean, maybe if you're like you're on like your last couple of breaths, but for the most part, no one should say that to anyone, to a family member, or to a patient. It's just, I mean, there should be something in the Hippocratic Oath that, like, and I know that my hospice palliative care social worker says there are some people that want to know, but, I don't. And so stop saying that to me because you're going to be wrong. And I'm going to outlive this diagnosis just to prove all you naysayers that you're
Yeah.
wrong. And it's just made me want to fight more hard
Yeah.
when it's funny because it's like there's some psychology at play. I remember when I started working with Dr. Lyle when I was 65 pounds heavier. This is, if you haven't seen my talk at the McDougall Advanced Study Weekend from Fat Vegan to Skinny Bitch, you should watch that because this could feed into this conversation. But when I first started working with him, he was saying, because I didn't know about the ego trap by then, and I guess he could suspect that I could get ego trapped. He goes, "Yeah, you probably can't do it, but you should have some Laura bars and whatever, and let's just try this on." And I'm like, "You're wrong. I'm gonna, your stupid diet." And so he got me mad. So they ended up doing the perfect diet and lose. Like he ended up being right, but by telling me kind of like, I'm not sure, and you probably are gonna need to eat these Laura bars and stuff. It's like no. And so when people tell me no, I'm like, no way. And so now I'm going to live just to spite them.
Yeah. Yeah. Screw them. That
Yeah.
that's a good reason, just to spite them. AJ, when you do things, what I also like is you can't eat and live the way you did when you got the disease if you want to reverse the disease. You got to change the way you're eating and living. And if people are suppressing, like just to be quote unquote perfect, and you're constantly worried about thinking, like we talked about that last time about cancer, and am I going to die, and what's this pain, and side effects, and doctors. Like I love the fact that you are trying to release yourself from the burden of hiding truths and doing things to just make people happy, and worrying about what people think about you, and instead live live in a way that makes you feel alive. And I
Yeah.
think so many people are forgetting to do that. And AJ, when I hear you get that new vigor, that you're invigorated, it sounds like you're like, I'm not going to feel crappy from Keytruda anymore. I'm not going to pretend just to be, or let people believe something just to be accepted. You're leading by example, and I really admire that.
Well, thank you. I want to read this wonderful text and give a shout out to Dr. Gustavo Tolosa, an old friend who we used to work together for years. He also was Dr. McDougall's webinar coordinator. You can still watch those on Dr. McDougall's website, all the way from Argentina. I'm watching you and Dr. Lederman today, and it's wonderful. All what you and he say is what I've learned from personal experience in the past 2 or 3 years. It's brilliant, and I know you're helping a lot of people. I sometimes feel like when you take the restriction off, it's like, you know, no, no, the SOS free diet to me, after I know, here's the thing, it's kind of like when you're a kid, when I was little, I had training wheels on my bike and I couldn't ride the bike without it. But at a certain point, I didn't need them and I could ride the bike. And to me, like I said, if you are somebody that has, for whom nothing has worked in terms of your weight or food addiction or disease reversal, I think it's an unparalleled diet. But at a certain point, I mean, my goodness, I maintained my weight loss for 12 years. And it was like, why am I doing something harder than I need to do, especially when my life got harder? And then feeling guilty about it because like, oh, I had mustard with and barbecue sauce with salt in it, or I mean, I had somebody see me eat a peppermint candy. It's like, I can't believe you ate that. And it's like, the reason I'm confessing is so people will stop, admonishing me and judging me if they see me eat something that's vegan but has sugar, oil. It's probably going to be oil or salt. But having the restriction lifted, it's like it's like if I say to you, don't think about the elephant, you're going to think about an elephant. And now that it's like, I used to think like, well, like, now, well, I can't have this and I can't have that. Now that the restrictions lifted and I can have whatever I want, even something not vegan, which I won't choose to do, I don't really want it. And I feel like
Yes.
for some people, and I think I'm sure Dr. Lyle doesn't have time to watch me, but I think he would agree with some of the what we're saying, if not most, that for
This is, yeah. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
certain people with certain psychology, that is not the best move on the chessboard, especially if you have not had good results before to do the strictest version. And again, who there are people in the plant-based world that think SOS free is absolutely ridiculous, and even that are promoting oil now. So who's to say that it is the best diet, especially when you and I, what we've tried to do since the beginning of disclosing my cancer diagnosis is to say, hey, people, the diet's really important. There's lots of, you were one of the original OGs from Forks Over Knives. It's really important for certain diseases, health reversal, disease reversal, and it's great for the animals and it's great for the planet. But people need to stop this. The diet is the be all and end all. I mean, I had literally I was, I forget where I was, but this was before I couldn't eat fruits and vegetables. My pancreas was working better, and I got a smoothie, and they go, I can't believe you're eating that because there's blueberries and bananas in it. I mean, there are people like, I mean, some of this research, I mean, this is just nuts if you ask me, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it's like, just stop already.
Yeah. And when you let go, see, that's what I love. When I tell you you can eat anything you want, all of a sudden, then you can connect to your body and figure out what you actually want versus doing what you think you're supposed to do. And I think that's really powerful. With our kids, I told them, I said, hey, we're vegan. They've only seen us be vegan. I told them, they said, when are you not, would you ever eat animal products? I said, if they run out of plants, I'll eat animals. But until they run out of plants, I'm not gonna eat animals. And they said that, Dad, well, do we have to be vegan? And I said, you don't have to be vegan, but I'd like you to make an informed decision. So would you be willing to watch these movies with me that show where the animals, what happens to the animals? And then if you still want to eat them and contribute to that process, you can do so. One of my kids said, I don't even want to watch the video. The other kid watched 5 minutes and then said, Dad, I'm good being vegan. So once that happened, though, they're vegan because they want to be, not because I'm making them. And what's interesting is some people criticize that. They say, why would you give them the choice? Because if they're just doing it because dad's making them, they don't connect to their own internal values that actually will sustain them for the rest of their lives versus only do it when I'm watching or because you're worried about somebody else seeing you. And that's what you were talking about, AJ. If somebody sees you outside and I go, oh, I got to have this, look, no, do it because it's what works for you and what works for your body. It's interesting. Jordan, when we were at a family event, there was someone that told her this ice cream was vegan, and it turned out it wasn't. And she was so upset. And you know what she was upset about? She was upset. She goes, Dad, did a baby cow die because I did that? And she was worried about that she hurt an animal. Now, if I was making her be vegan, would she connect to the pain that she thought was, um, happened to an animal? She wouldn't, because she was so focused on dad making her do it, not because that's what resonates with her values. So now I think, AJ, what you're doing and have always done is what works for you. And you want people to hear that and not think that they have to do this special diet that AJ, the perfect, is telling you have to do to be healthy. But that doesn't mean, AJ, that you're eating like you said. I would say that every time I've seen you eat, it's it's extremely, extremely healthy. So I think that, like you said, like, what are you? I would say 99%. If you had to say, I mean, it's all relative, but I would say maybe it's 98% without added salt, added sugar, added oil,
Yeah.
probably closer to 99%.
Yeah.
So it's so clean.
Yeah.
So I think it's more about this idea that it's 100% or there's something wrong, or it's 100% or you're the reason you have cancer, or it's 100% or you're bad in some way. And I think that's what we're trying to do today, is to get rid of this idea that it's 100% or terrible. There is an area in between. It's a big area, and life can not only be healthy there, life can be more wonderful there.
Absolutely. And again, we keep saying this, do the least restrictive program. You can do the get you the results you seek. And if you love what you're doing, keep doing it. But if it was the right choice for so many people, I don't think they would fall off so much. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes the SOS free world just for me felt like a cult or a religion. And the thing is I've yet to really find a religion that I want to commit to. I've been searching spiritually, going to different churches and temples. I mean, I totally believe in God. I even believe in Jesus, but I haven't found a religion. All the religions that I've looked into, it just feels like the SOS free diet. It's like you step out of place and you're bad and you're wrong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think you're trying to get, shed some light on is, can we get rid of this idealistic or moralistic judgmental place and just live and do what works best for you? And if people want your advice, they'll ask for it. And we can support each other, even if they do things differently than how we like to do them.
Absolutely. So, what's the best diet? No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Now that we got rid of all that, let's actually get to the serious stuff. The best diet is
The one that you can follow.
the one that
It's
you can follow for the rest of your life, and trust that what you can do today, it's better to be successful at 60%, whatever perfect is, and do that. And then slowly okay, now maybe in a month from now, 2 months, 3 months from now, you're like, you know what? I want to do more. I mean, when I switched over, I remember being vegetarian when I first tried to do plant-based diets. And then I said, well, why are these people vegan? Maybe I could do more. It wasn't because I had to. It was because I was curious, and then I learned about it and I said, oh, actually, I don't miss the cheese or the eggs. And oh, look, I learned all this good stuff that can happen. But it's not because somebody's judging me. I think that's the thing. It's a really lonely and painful place to be when your actions are motivated by seeking approval of others.
yeah. Hey, where does okay, let's talk about bread though. Where does that fit in all this, you know? Because I mean, here's the other thing. All the things that I eat now that I didn't eat all those years, I got to tell you, bread is really good. I don't know if you eat bread, but it's very good.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. It's compared to what? So is it, and then what is in the bread? So if the
Exactly.
bread is, I mean, I've seen bread that's fried in, egg and or egg replacement and sugar, and it's all, and it's like a French toast type of thing. Is that bad? I would probably eat that once in a while if I was going to do it, and I'd try and make a healthier version. I'm always trying to make it more whole if possible. If I can make it more whole and less processed or with less added salt, oil, or sugar, I'm pushing myself to do that and still be enjoyable. So I think,
And
AJ, bread, sometimes I don't use bread as a foundation, as a staple. My staple, I try to make whole grains. But adding some bread can be a very healthy part of your diet. And people who are struggling, who exercise a lot, or people who are struggling to keep weight on, they're going to eat a little bit more calorie dense.
yep,
So, AJ, are you eating bread all the time and it's the only thing that you can do to really get food in? Then I
absolutely.
would say bread is really, really good for you.
Right. And then Dr. Goldhammer agreed too. So luckily, you see, the oil is the hardest part for my medical condition, pancreas and the
Yeah.
EPI. So I was so lucky that Lucy, if you're watching, Lucy brought me this bread. We have a bakery here called Gluten Off, and I've had him on the show. And it's not just the best gluten-free sourdough bread, it's the best bread I ever had, and it's oil-free. And yes, of course, there's a tiny bit of salt and sugar because they use that in the starter. But when there was nothing I could eat, it was life saving. So do I eat bread every day when I'm nauseous? That's like my
Yeah.
go-to
That's good.
is toast with nothing on it, like the brat diet, bananas, rice, applesauce, toast. So I always have bread in the freezer, but do I eat it every day? No, when I'm feeling well, I would say I eat it twice a week,
Yeah.
vegan, gluten
But
free.
what would you, if you were going to have something that's um, bread, it sounds like you eat it either because you're craving that dish, if it's a special dish, let's say, or because you don't feel well eating the other stuff. So for you, bread is very healthy. Now, if there's other people who are overweight and they're eating bread because they haven't pushed themselves to learn how to make the other stuff that is made with whole grains, let's say, I would say it's still better than eating the standard American diet. But I would ask them, what happens inside you when I ask you to consider trying some whole grains and these dishes that are made with whole grains instead of bread? And then what they say will inform what we do next. So it's, to me, it's, again, it's very individual versus trying to say bread is good or bread is bad. And my guess is you're going to get all these comments in that are saying either it's good or it's bad or it's this is, I don't know, but I don't think you can ever say, bread is good for you or bread is bad for you.
It's compared to what and what your goals are, right?
Exactly.
I don't think
Exactly.
I would have lost weight eating bread, especially bread with nut butter. But now and again, like when God, when you're so nauseous, that's like what toast for some reason. It's like,
Yeah.
it's one of the few things and so when I eat bread recreationally, it's because I'm going to Auburn Bodega, and a sandwich without bread is not a sandwich.
Exactly.
Isn't that
Exactly.
isn't that profound?
Yeah.
So
The people that try to put two pieces of kale instead of the bread, I'm like, why are you even pretending? Is that fooling anybody?
yeah.
So if
You
you
know,
want to have the sandwich, eat the sandwich, enjoy the sandwich, and then go back to eating the whole grains when you don't need the sandwich.
Absolutely. So we are, we have a question here from a viewer named Nurse Sandy. What do you think about eggs if they're from my own backyard, from beautiful chickens that are loved?
I guess the question is, what's the goal? Are she eating the eggs?
I'm guessing that maybe you could
Just
follow
if,
up. The eggs are from yeah, if they're not like factory farm caged and things like that. So I'm guessing
yeah,
it's
I think it's the problem, factory farms and all the stuff that they do to some of the eggs that are, uh, commercially raised. I think those are additional harmful things. But the base problem with eggs is the nutrient profile of the eggs. All of the cholesterol and saturated fats and the environmental contaminants that accumulate in eggs, and just the too much protein and the types of amino acids that are in the protein, the sulfur containing amino acids. So it's the nutrient profile of the eggs that's the biggest problem. But if someone told me, AJ, that if I get to eat one egg a week, I'm going to do your diet, Matt, or two eggs, or whatever that magic number was, I would say eat the two eggs a week so that you can do the rest of the diet, whatever it takes to get the health promoting foods in. But if you can do without the eggs, there's a lot of benefit to doing without the eggs.
yeah.
What do you think, AJ? What do you
I
think?
I think so. If it's going to make you, I mean, I'm an ethical vegan, but if it's their own chicken laying eggs, they're going to have to lay them, right? They're not making
Yeah,
them.
but you don't have to eat them just because they lay them.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So what I'm saying is if somebody's eating them and are they eating them because they think they're health promoting, or is it meeting some other, like, what is, I would not kid myself that eggs are health promoting unless you can't, there's no plant foods to eat at that point. Then maybe it helps you better than eating nothing. But don't kid yourself that the health promoting foods are very simple: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, starchy vegetables, a little bit of nuts and seeds.
Yeah. And
That's health promoting. Anything else is not is not going to fall on that health promoting list. And if you eat them, now it's a question as to why are you eating them and how is that helping or detracting from you being able to eat those five food groups that I just talked about.
right. And your medical school classmate, Dr. Brooke Goldner, who's on once a month, kind of said the same thing that, if people want to eat recreationally, they can. They just have to know that that's what they're doing. And again,
Yeah.
everybody's going to be different. For some people, it can be a slippery slope. But, here's the thing. If somebody, I make a certain amount of money, and if somebody said, hey, I'll pay you that much money, but you don't have to go to work, I'm going to take that deal. Why be stricter than you have to be? Because I think some people really believe that this SOS-free vegan diet is such a sign of pristine perfection. And not every doctor agrees. There's salt in Dr. Brooke Goldner's program, for example, and a lot of people have had tremendous results doing programs that have had, sugar and salt and things like that. So I just it just drives me crazy because it's not I don't want to be a member of a club that's that exclusive anymore. Now, here's this said, if all we had in the world was SOS free vegan food that was gluten free, I would eat it, I would buy it. But the reality is what restaurant can you go to that checks all those marks? And what, vegan event you can go to that gets all those marks. Well, actually, our conference was SOS Free Vegan, and we got so many complaints about the food, even though I thought the food was amazing. So next year, and by the way, Dr. Matt Lederman, he'll be there. So if you want to meet him in person, we don't know yet what he's talking about. The tickets will go on sale early bird really soon. The chef was extraordinary, 20 years at the Bellagio. And so we told him for next year, we're not going to handcuff him with no SOS, no oil. Oil will always be no oil, but that we'll have it be SOS free friendly, so that there will always be, the salad bar and things without SOS. But, I mean, 500 people complained that for them the food wasn't good enough, and they're paying for a
Yeah.
conference, and
Yeah.
even if they are SOS free, people do want to enjoy, and people that aren't, and again, food addiction, this is the thing. It exists on a continuum. Not everybody is hardcore. So, some people can have recreational eating for a day, a meal, or even a weekend and get right back on track. So, again, stop painting everybody with the same brush. You do you, I do me.
And food addiction is has a lot more to do with other things than just the food. That's something that Alon and I work a lot in. And I think there you can limit the food as a means of trying to control your addiction, but you are not healing the addiction if you're just limiting your control. I think there's a lot of other things that need to happen too. So I just want to add that in, that managing addiction versus healing and reversing the addiction are different.
Well, this is a path we need to go down more on the show, and that, I think people would really enjoy learning about, because you're like the first one that even, and again, if you are unfamiliar with Dr. Matt, we've been friends and colleagues for, I don't know, like since I think 2008. And then one time we lived in the same city. And when I had not yet shared that that I had been diagnosed with cancer 2 years earlier. The only one that really knew were the True North doctors, Dr. Lau, Dr. Goldhammer, Dr. Sultana, and Dr. McDougall, who was helping me. And I kind of let it, I didn't even tell you, it kind of slipped out when I contacted you to speak at Dr. McDougall's memorial. And, we were talking and chatting about, oh, what a loss it was. And I said, yeah, especially for me, he was helping me with my cancer. And you're like, what cancer? And then you started presenting to me all these ideas of the work of Stephen Cole and of Mark Idetta, that disease is not just caused by what we eat solely.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the problem with the people that are, I don't know what the word is when they think, I'm not saying diet isn't important, but to think, that my lung cancer was caused just by what I ate and what I'm not
Right.
eating now. They're
That is,
completely, that, what about mind body medicine? They're completely discounting anything but food. And it's to me, it's tragic. I mean, if it's working for you and you don't have these diseases and you're happy with it, but the fact that people don't even, I don't want to say all people, but people that are mental health professionals often do, that our psychology or that our trauma or that the thoughts we think have absolutely no effect on our outcomes, it to me is ridiculous. Because to me, that's, if I'm gonna survive, it's gonna be from here up. It's not going to
yeah.
be because I had a peppermint candy or because my mustard has salt. It's going to be because of how I'm thinking, acting, and behaving. And that's what I want to surround
Yes.
myself with, the work that you do or other people, that I want my head to be
Yeah.
in place, because that is what is going to heal me. It is not going to be
That
eating kale or eating raw food. I'm sorry, with all due
that
respect, if it works for you, but I don't think you have lung cancer, and understand that the food is wonderful and it's supportive, but that is not what is going to heal me.
that yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The food is important at baseline, but there's other things. I mean, some of these people who change their diet all of a sudden have miraculous changes in their health. There's other things that are happening which we can get into another time that they're not accounting for or not recognizing. And with food, stress eating, and whatever you want to call it, emotional eating, food addiction, it requires a certain process of continuous support, ongoing, to retrain how you interact and see the world and how you respond to your life and the people in your life. And the problem is, a lot of the treatments even if you're doing emotional treatments, you do a retreat and you're there for a week and then you go back into the old environment, or you're seeing a therapist for 1 hour a week and then you go back into your old environment, which is why we're building the AI coach that focuses on that supports people, because people need something that supports them throughout the day, multiple times a day, for the rest of their lives as they start to build these new muscles. And I think that is, I can't think of another way for people to be successful. I can't think of it. And you got to do this work ongoing. And it's really hard to hold all of that yourself and to support yourself. So, AJ, if people are interested in learning more, we're gonna share at some point our coach. It's not ready yet. That is supporting with stress eating and emotional eating, and it's something that you can have and work with throughout the day. So if we'll release that on our Substack. So if people sign up for that,
Right. And
they'll learn about it.
you don't know this, but all throughout this conversation today, I've been posting on Instagram and YouTube and in the chat just to subscribe for your Substack. It's free. Dr. Matt's a great writer. He writes really good articles. And so, because one
Right.
of the viewers on Instagram, great name, Veg Farm D, said, first time I've heard of Dr. Matt, really like his messaging. So Dr. Matt and his wife, Dr. Alona Pulde, were in the original, well, there's only one, Forks Over Knives. I think it came out in 2011. And if you like him, he's been on this show many, many times, and maybe he needs to come on more, but I kind of want to keep him just in my community. But subscribe to his Substack. And
Yeah, I think that's going to be, thank you, AJ, because I think that we need to get people continuous ongoing support. And I think with the AI now, some people don't like AI. So if it's not for you, that's great. But something that can support you. What's interesting is that Alona and I have been using the coaches for ourselves throughout the day. And I think you're going to see some amazing things as these years, with AI. I think people are going to start having, just, can you imagine, AJ, if all you had to do was sit? I don't know what you think about, have you ever done virtual reality stuff?
only at the Van Gogh experience, it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing one time. I loved it.
Yeah, can you imagine if you have a robot that you can talk to that just hangs out by the fridge, and you're like, oh, I'm about to grab something, help me with before I eat it. And it's never about stopping them from eating. It's about helping them be mindful, check in, and figure out what needs they're meeting. But imagine putting a virtual reality thing on and being able to talk to somebody before you are about to do something that you don't want to do. And it's not about stopping the behavior. It's about connecting to the needs you're trying to meet with that behavior and figuring out if there's a more effective, less costly way to do it. So I'm excited by this. So definitely, if people want to hear more about that, we'll
Yeah,
share,
the
AJ.
only
Thank
way
you.
you'll find out is if you sign up for the Substack, and when it's ready, it'll be announced. So somebody is saying something about orthorexia nervosa. The term for an unhealthy obsession with the perfection diet is orthorexia nervosa. I don't think this pertains to you, Chef AJ, but there are people who have problems with orthorexia nervosa. Some dietitians, especially when the patient has anorexia, says that just even a vegan diet with sugar, oil, and salt is too restrictive.
Mm, yeah. And again, I think that's about helping the patient figure out what's going on for them, what they're doing, and finding out a way that they can be successful. It's very individual, and yeah, it's tough. What were they saying about orthorexia? Did they just want to name
That's
that
just what she was
exists?
that
That
it
exists, yeah.
exists. Yeah.
That there's unhealthy is a judgmental term, but where they're so focused on whether something's healthy or not, or good or okay, that it starts getting in the way of them enjoying life or other things. It starts having a negative impact on them. And I think that's what they're saying is concerning.
Okay. Somebody is saying the Substack link isn't working, so I
If
don't.
they just go to Connection Docs, Substack is Connection Docs.
Yeah, I've been putting it in the chat, so I'll have it in the show notes. So let me try it right here. Works from oh no people. Okay, I'll fix that link, guys. I'm so sorry. You'll have to come back right after the show, and I'll put it. Ew, you're right. It doesn't work. Why doesn't it work?
Uh-oh. Is it not working? What is it?
Let me see what happens when I do it. I'm cutting and pasting. No. Oh boy. And that's in all the show notes. You got to give me the correct one. It's saying no people found. All right, we'll fix that. We promise and do it as soon as possible. Dr. Matt, get me that link so I can
Yeah.
get it at least in the show notes. It'll be too long to get in the chat. So that's good. Well,
Yeah.
anyway,
Here, I'll put it in the
well,
chat there. It's just
oh,
substack.com at
yeah.
Connection Docs.
Okay, put it there for me, and then I'll put it. Well, that'd be perfect if you can do that right now. Okay, I will click out and then talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Yeah.
Do you ever see that Saturday Night Live with Mike Myers, where is that where you,
No,
I love that. You just say that yourself?
Yeah, I just say talk amongst yourselves. There we go. Try now if that will work, guys. I just put it in the chat and tell me if that's working for you. Boom. I'll put it Instagram, but you can't click out. So cool. All right. Boom. Well, should we tell them our little Sunday? Oh gosh, it doesn't. What
Why is
is?
it not working?
Hold on. Let me. Oh, this
Does
is.
it work if you click it from the chat?
Hold on. Let me try it again. Oh man, talk about something for a minute. Keep them busy, will you?
About the what were you going to say about Sunday? About was that the improv
Oh
or
yeah, like I mean, we don't want any
what?
people in our
We
Tuesday class, but we should tell them about how the
oh my
experience
God.
is
I
helping
love
in life. Maybe give Patrick a shout out.
oh Patrick Bristow, the best teacher, I think, let alone improv teacher, but just fantastic. It's so fun. I'm so excited to go to your conference just primarily because Patrick's can I was like you were telling me he was bringing like a whole team or wasn't it like there was like some other people that are going to do some improv at your show at
Absolutely.
the
It's not my conference. I'm the host. It's Benji Kurt's conference, Plant
oh
Power
Benji, sorry
Institute.
Benji, yes.
That's okay because then when they come to me like, why can't I speak? It's like, I don't know, I'm not the producer, but he's going to bring, I believe it's 8 people that are like Groundlings alumni, some of the best improvisers in the world, including Daniel Gaither, who was in Mad TV. And those of us that are his students, maybe the last scene will be dragged on
Oh,
stage. So
improv is so fun. And AJ, when I was starting to not like improv when I started taking classes at a school we both know.
yeah.
And they were making it like there's a right way and a wrong way and do it.
They were making it
And I was
like the
getting so,
SOS free diet,
yeah,
not
exactly. And if
inclusive.
you have to, and then I was trying to be perfect at improv and get it right. And I was so stressed out that I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I told you about that. And you were like, the one rule about improv is it's got to be fun or you're not doing it right. And when I stopped worrying about doing it right or getting it perfect, all of a sudden I started enjoying it again.
Right. And
So
that's the
thank
same
you.
thing about food with me.
Exactly. And it's not like we're getting it that wrong. I'm not like
Right.
tripping over myself in the class. But when I was so focused on being perfect, I couldn't enjoy it.
Yep.
It was so stressful too.
Yep. Yeah. And
Yeah.
listen, Nate are in our class, but we don't want you in Tuesday. We need you in Thursday. There's too many people in Tuesday. I don't, it's Connection Docs is the Substack link, and it is working now for sure. Well, let's continue more of these conversations for people that are interested, in.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, this is great.
that's the thing
I
about
love
medicine
it.
is when I think about the 28 specialists I've seen, I mentioned this, they all are treating a body part, but nobody's treating me anymore. I've
Yeah.
become my
Yeah.
pancreas and my adrenals and my rib and my, all these parts. And I guess they have to do it to a degree because there's no longer general practitioners, which my grandfather did. But this idea of holistic wellness, body, mind, medicine, that's kind of where I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
focusing on.
No, I think it's the where to put your money right now. You're focusing on living now instead of being Chef AJ with lung cancer, you're Chef AJ who's loving life and
Yeah.
wanting to have an impact and just enjoy every day that you have,
Yeah.
no
And
matter how many
it
years
took
or decades that is.
those 2 people to punch me down on Friday to say what they said to like kind of have me rise up in a more
Yeah.
powerful way because I realized that I was focusing so much on the fear of dying that I was completely missing the joy of
Mhm.
living. And so
Mm.
I haven't had any help in this area yet. We're going to have Dr. Sarah Ann Schumann on the show the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I met her at Rancho. She's an amazing plant-based doctor talking about mindful self-compassion. But what I tried to do, because you know what, I could get pain medicine if I asked for it to the degree of pain I'm in, but I've never asked for it because I feel if I ask for it this early in the journey, then where am I going to go, right? So I don't even ask for it and it's not been offered. But what I try to do, because there are times that I'm still in extreme pain, especially when I first wake up, whatever's wrong with the leg, it's the first few steps, is that instead of noticing, and I do notice when I'm in pain and I don't like it, what I do now is I notice when I'm not in pain. And so even if
Mm.
it's just for seconds, I'll say, "Oh wow, I'm not nauseous right now. I don't have that." Like I'll be really grateful, and it's like, "Oh wow, I can walk right now." I don't, because thank God, if my pain was 24 hours a day, every day, I don't know what I do, but I just really try to notice when things are good. And
Yeah.
there's an old saying: 2 men looked out at prison bars, one saw mud, and one saw stars. And I'm just trying to think
Mm.
that with all this shit, there's got to be a pony somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, AJ.
Yeah, well, I love you so much. I don't know where I'd be without you because, I mean, like I would just, I don't know. I mean, I thank you so much. And guys, if you want to work with somebody extraordinary, Matt does, private work with people, not so much. If you want the weight loss, that would be his wife, but he's an extraordinary healer. I'm not going to call him, I mean, he is a physician, but if you want to integrate your body and mind, I really suggest get on his Substack and maybe even have a private session because he's really, really can help you with everything. So
Yeah. Well,
that
thank you, AJ. I love you too, and I love the direction that you're focusing on living life. And those are the people that heal are the ones that are too busy living that they forget to die.
I'm gonna Norman Cousins and Bernie Siegel the heck out of this.
That's what you do.
That's
That's what you
right.
do. You do it.
That's
You
right.
got it. If I could high five you now, my
Okay.
fun.
Well, we can do it like improv. We're experienced improvisers. So, guys, if you want to see us together improvising on stage in Las Vegas, get on chefaj.com. So, as soon as the tickets are available, you'll get that
Oh my
$100
God.
savings for the early bird price. And then, if you want to have fun, this is not a conference. Yes, there's medical stuff and medical doctors. This is a party. And that's how we're all going to get well together. We're going to a party. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I appreciate this so much. And thanks, Dr. Matt. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. Bye, AJ. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. And my next show isn't for about 10 days. It'll be Dr. Ron Weiss, the 21st. And you're friends with him now, right? Is it the
Yeah,
21st or whatever next Friday is? Yeah, the 21st at 10. Isn't that cool that you have like Dr. Weiss now?
I know. I know. I'm meeting all these cool people.
I mean, he is so heart-centered.
Yeah.
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 When you look up in a Yiddish dictionary, Guten Neshama, it's Dr. Weiss's photo. Yeah. And yours too.